It should be no surprise that our group of advocates were thrilled when back in August of last year, after years of work, the previous shelter manager was fired for cause stemming from a state investigation. This was our opportunity to turn things around and start fresh, or so we thought. Unfortunately, no one had a true plan to correct the years of mismanagement once that termination was carried out. The correct action at that time would have been to bring in a professional consulting firm large enough to provide us with an interim manager and eventually help us recruit a truly qualified permanent shelter director. Instead, people with absolutely no experience in day-to-day shelter management or even a working history in dealing with cats and dogs on a professional level were given this monumentally important task. I was told by Will Dorfer before he resigned that the commissioners had approved the hiring of just such a consulting firm. He was actively seeking proposals from some of the firms recommended. Instead, however, there were a couple of people who were able to act behind the scenes and convince the powers that be to hold off on hiring the consultant. Those behind the scenes people told us that they had the right person for the job. He was a former sheriff, and he is our now current interim shelter director, Mr. Jerry Jones. We were assured that not only did Mr. Jones have a love for animals, but that he could handle the shelter rebuilding because as sheriff, the shelter fell under his purview many years ago. We believe that behind those behind-the-scene actors who were fellow advocates that fought alongside us in demanding changes for previous leadership. Unfortunately, we trusted them and did not argue against Mr. Jones' appointment. In hindsight, it is evidence that Mr. Jones was not the right choice. I met Mr. Jones in December when my husband and I dropped off some donations we made to the shelter. He is a nice man and appeared very appreciative of our gifts and of gifts of many other people who donated that same day. I don't doubt that he has a genuine love of animals, but it takes more than that to effectively run a shelter. It appears that there are less animals being euthanized, which is a good thing, but it's not efficient policy and procedure driving that result. Instead of building more and stronger rescue relationships, there are even fewer rescues pulling from our shelter. We need more rescue involvement to keep capacity at a manageable level. Instead, the county is paying $25 per day per dog to have overflow dogs boarded locally. Last I heard, there were at least 10 dogs boarding since before Thanksgiving. This certainly is not an efficient use of shelter funds. Plus, it is nearly impossible for the boarded dogs to have public exposure because they cannot be seen by potential adopters or rescue representatives that come into the facility on a regular basis. Lack of manpower and lack of SOPs, standard operating procedures, are the main excuses being given for the current state of shelter operations. But I think most problems are stemming from a lack of leadership and a lack of an experienced and qualified shelter manager. For example, at the December advisory board meeting, most of what I heard is that we are short-staffed, our people lack experience, and we are making slow progress. Mr. Jones said that he only had 3 employees. The truth is that there are actually 8 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. So why try to give the impression of having only 3? It feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors, obfuscating the root cause for the lack of measurable progress. Last year, you approved a creation of a new shelter position, outreach coordinator. That was intended to facilitate bringing more rescue groups back into the fold. The coordinator's other main purpose was to reestablish and oversee a vibrant volunteer program once again. That position has twice been filled in the last 4 months, and yet it is currently vacant again. Both coordinators quit under Jerry's leadership. This is disturbing because the last person to hold that position did have shelter experience and was well known and well respected in the rescue community. Several rescues were excited to hear that she was working for our county. I am also aware of at least 2 other employees besides the coordinators that quit under the watch of Mr. Jones' short tenure. What is really going on? Why is it that we cannot attract or keep employees with experience? Apart from fewer animals being killed, I don't really feel there are any differences than what we had under the previous shelter leadership. Transparency and communication are still virtually non-existent. We should be so much further ahead by now. The current state of shelter operations is very upsetting to the many advocates who have been working for positive changes for years.
Okay, it's been 5 minutes. Is there a motion to extend our time? Make the motion.
I just have like 2 more sentences.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Please, I beg you, hire a consulting firm immediately that can provide true leadership in this delicate interim period and to ultimately help us recruit experienced and qualified permanent shelter management. It is beyond time the shelter get on the right track. Our county's animals and citizens deserve better than this, and I hope to see positive changes soon. Thank you.
Ms. Duncan.